Today will be a day to remember for the rest of your life. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is excited to present the Heart of a Hall of Famer program connected by Extreme Networks. With over 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 47 states and countries all over the world, sharing the message that football teaches important life values like commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty.
But you have to make right decisions even when nobody's watching you.
Well, respect is not just given out. It's not handed out like a brochure. It's earned.
Today, you are presented with an opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more important than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. They didn't roll out the bed great. They put the work in, on the field, in the weight room, in the classroom, in their communities. They made themselves a Hall of Famer on and off the field.
Your feet can't take you where your mind's never been.
Because you can make it, but it's just gonna take a little hard work and some determination.
And today, you will learn you can do the same thing they did. You don't have to have a gold jacket or a bronze bust to make a difference in the lives of others. It's your decision whether you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
If attitudes are contagious, is your attitude worth catching?
It's integrity as well, because when you decide to pursue something and you don't quit, that says a lot about you.
Commitment to excellence. We can all aspire to be the best.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, the Heart of a Hall of Famer program, connected by Extreme Networks.
Thank you, guys. The lesson is simple. The lesson is simple. Bring your will and perseverance to worth. When the reward is sublime, the risks are higher, and you must embrace the uncomfortable to go into that rarefied air of excellence. Our family foundation supports a variety of charities. We believe in our young generation. We believe in our special ops soldiers and their families. Our motto is what you give will grow and what you keep will perish. My hope and prayer for all of us tonight is that we will always possess a generous spirit of giving, love, and compassion for each other.
All right, with that, I'd like to welcome everybody back here to Canton, Ohio, to the Pro Football Hall of Fame for another edition of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series connected by Extreme Networks. My name is Jake Ray, and I am super excited to have all of our students here today, here inside the building in the Hall of Fame, as well as all of our students who are tuned in on our YouTube live stream as well. So to everybody who's tuned in, thank you so much for tuning in today. Our mission here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, honesty, all of which are going to make the gentleman that's going to be sitting here in this seat with me a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but it made him a great man and a great individual and a great person off the field as well, and can make anybody sitting in this room a better person, whether it be a student, teacher, member of your community, whatever it might be. My name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth Education and Leadership Manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I am super excited to be able to have the opportunity to sit up here and talk to everybody today. Before we do bring in our special guest today, Hall of Famer Morten Andersen, some thank yous I'd like to pass out. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our great partners at Extreme Networks for everything they do for us at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, including sponsoring this great program, giving students not only here in Canton, Ohio, but all over the country the opportunity to hear from our Hall of Famers. Secondly, I'd like to thank our teachers, administrators, educators, principals, anybody that's watching us in their classroom online or was gracious enough to bring their students here to the Hall of Fame today. Thank you so much. And lastly, got to thank the students. Students, this is an opportunity for you to ask questions. An opportunity to hear from a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame that you don't get to do every day. So don't take it for granted. Listen today. Listen to the great things we're going to talk about, because there'll be something that you're going to be able to take away from the program. Now, before the program, there were a select group of students that were handed out some note cards today. Throughout the program today, we are going to be going to them for their questions. So students who have the question cards, there's a microphone in the back of the room. When I say go ahead, next person stand up, you'll walk to the back. You'll state your name, the school you go to, and then you'll go ahead with your question. If you do have a question and you were not selected with a card here before, find somebody with a Hall of Fame logo on, an employee here at the Hall of Fame. Tell them your question, and we will do our best to see if we can make that as part of the program. No matter where you're watching today, whether you're watching us live or you're here or you're touring the rest of the day, if you're sharing pictures on social media, make sure you tag @ProFootballHOF and @Extreme Networks and use the hashtag HOFValues, and your post just might be reshared. So that's enough from me. You didn't come here to hear me talk all morning. With this, I'd like to welcome a member of the 1980s and 1990s All-Decade team, a 7-time Pro Bowler, 25 seasons in the NFL, 2nd all-time leading scorer in NFL history, but most importantly, Hall of Famer, Mr. Morten Andersen.
How we doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. What do you think about the drip, guys? Good? Just for you, just for you.
He's got me beat, that's for sure. So Morten, first off, welcome. We like to say welcome back to your second home here in Canton.
Yeah.
I like to start out with guys who have been enshrined for a few years, especially for somebody who spent so much time in the league. What's it like walking through the doors as Morten Andersen, NFL player, versus Morten Andersen, Hall of Famer?
I mean, it's humbling. I had a couple of opportunities to play here in the Hall of Fame game, and going through the hall and going through, which I think is one of the coolest rooms there. Have you guys gone through the hall yet? The bust room, where all the busts are there, and watching the lineage and going through and observing, where it started with Burt Bell and then going through the whole thing. So you get a sense of history that you didn't quite appreciate, I think, as an active player. When I was inducted in 2017, just coming up here and understanding that you're part of the history of a great game that teaches you so much, not only on the field but off the field. It's very humbling.
Well,
very unique.
We're happy to have you here. Happy to have you back here for this program specifically. So to start things off, we mentioned those values: commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty.
Yeah.
Of those 5, is there one that sticks out to you as more important than the others? Or I like to kind of make the joke that it's like a team almost, and all 5 kind of work together.
Yeah, I'd like to start maybe playing a word game with you guys, because I always, when I was a student and you had to remember certain phrases, certain words, I would take, for example, the 5 sub-traits of a Hall of Famer, right? So I don't know if you guys have pencil or anything, but put this in your mind: a vertical column, and the first one's going to be R. The next one is ICCH. That spells rich. I know there's 2 C's, forget about that. It's not a spelling class. Rich, okay. We're all rich if we possess those 5 characters. What are they? Respect, integrity, commitment, courage, and honesty. It's one way to remember the 5 sub-traits. But the most important thing is character. Imagine you're basically a house, and the foundation of that house, that is your character. And everything else is built upon your character. It is who you are fundamentally. And it's taught and it's ingrained in you. You're born with some of it. But it's also learned behavior. And it's basically knowing right from wrong. So to answer your question about which one is most important to me, it would be character, because everything flows from that. I did a couple of weeks up at Harvard Business School, and they like to talk like spoke and wheel. So you have a wheel, and then you have the spokes that go out. In the middle is character, and then you have the 5 sub-traits that, like tentacles of an octopus, go out. without the foundation, without the character and the strength of the character, you cannot have strength of the subtraits. In other words, without strong character, how are you going to have strong integrity? How are you going to have honesty, pure honesty? How are you going to have commitment and courage? Courage is probably the one that strikes me as the most important, because what a Hall of Famer, as you saw in the video, what a Hall of Famer goes through, and what we all go through in life, is failure. And I think failing forward and understanding that that's an important part of life is the most important thing. That's what I learn much more when I fail than when I succeed. It's easier to have your hands above the head and say, oh, everything's going great. What are we learning from that? No, it's when your back's against the wall. You have to embrace the world of suck. I talk about that all the time. It's a military term. You're in basic training, or for the ball players and the athletes in here, and I see a whole bunch of athletes, it's 2-a-days, it's 3-a-days. Still 3-a-days in high school? Incredible, right? You go in the morning, you go midday, you go at night. So it's the world of suck. So I would say it's a long answer to a short question, I'm sorry, but courage would be the one that strikes me as one to embrace and one to develop and never fear failing. I think we can talk more about that. I think there's so many, I can give you a couple examples from my life as we go, but there's so many glaring examples of when you fail forward, when you come out of something distasteful, something that really sucked, something that was horrible, where you were like on the ropes, you felt uncomfortable, that's when character takes over, and that's when you can develop as a human being, as an athlete, as an individual. And so, yeah.
I like that you brought up the idea of courage, because, I mean, hopefully all the students out here did their research, knew who they were coming in to hear from today, but, you know, and you don't have to go through the full story, because I'm sure we could be here all day with that and everything.
We could, and I want a cliff note.
But can you just
tell
the students how important courage was for you, because your journey isn't the same as players you see today. You have your journey literally all over the world to get you to the seat here today.
Yeah, I'm from Copenhagen, Denmark. I was born there, and I lived there for 17 years. And when I came to America in 1977, 47 years ago, good grief. Wow. Okay, yeah, 17. I was 17 years old. I didn't speak English. I didn't know anybody in this country. I moved in with a family in Indianapolis on the west side as a high school exchange student. And it took courage. The point was to be here for 10 months and then go back home and continue my education and playing soccer and what I did back home. But football, American football, and I gave a couple examples in my Hall of Fame speech. I don't know if any of you guys spent 19 minutes and 33 seconds, but if you did, I encourage you to do that, because I tell the story of my introduction to American football and realizing the ball wasn't round, realizing that you had to wear heavy armor to play the game, and was that necessary? And it became painfully obvious it was very necessary to have that. But the courage comes when you are, you know, I was playing in an away game for 10 months. I didn't know anybody, and what the team sport gave me, what football gave me, was 80 new friends right away, because when you put foot to ball, it flies through the uprights. People get excited. And I got excited because I could get it off the ground. I mean, that was a miracle. But it allowed me to integrate into American society and culture very quickly. And there's nothing like a locker room, as a lot of you guys know. There's nothing like a locker room with no filter, to keep it raw. I'm not sure it was the King's English I was learning at the time. It was English, it was American. It was, I learned a lot of words, but it was an invaluable experience. But it took courage to go there, and it took courage to let go of my fears of being rejected as a foreigner, as a guy that was, you know, looked different, the haircut, my accent, not knowing the language. It took real courage. Imagine you going to France or Germany or Denmark for 10 months as an exchange student, and some of you may. I hope you do. And you're going to be asked to speak the native language. You're going to be asked to speak French. Tu parles français, non? Parle français? Oder wir können Deutsch sprechen. So different languages, right?
I don't know what you just said.
I just so you can speak French, or you can speak German, or you know. So my point is to be fearless when you go, and to be open to new possibilities, and be authentic. And I think what attracted me to America was, and to this way of life, is if you come here with a deep desire to be open, you know, and this was in the late 70s, so it was a different time, I realized that. But to be open, new experiences, and to learn, and to be inquisitive, to be curious about life. It's endless. It's so easy to talk to people in this country, in my opinion. I mean, it's so easy to say, hey, how you doing? You know, and mean it, and then so intentional living, purposeful living is so important. And so the defining moment for me was when I realized the possibilities in this country are endless if you come with an open mind, if you come with a desire, a deep desire to work with intent, authenticity, and go fearless.
I think that's great. With that, we're going to start some questions from our students. So first student up, go ahead and step to the back of the room there. State your name, the school you go to, and then go ahead and ask your question. It's on.
Brandon Grant, I was just building. How did you take the lessons you learned playing football and apply them to your own life?
So the lessons you learned from football, how did you take those lessons and apply them to your life off the field?
So many parallels between the game of football and life. The sum is more important than the individual. The team's more important, but we have to work as fingers in the glove, like fingers in a glove. You know, my job was to score points. My job was not to hurt the football team. Everybody had their role, but we're pulling in the same direction. So it's the same now. My business is a global business. We do event planning, and I do arbitrage with different companies, putting companies together. How do you get these companies to collaborate and work together? You have to, again, and I go back to my earlier statement about authenticity and about intent. You just have to come honestly with courage and explain it. And that's football. If you don't have courage in football, you can't go. If you don't know, you don't go. And part of football is knowing, like, and now I'm going to get a little nerdy on you, if that's all right. But as a kicker, you have to know it's over in 1.2 seconds from snap to kick. Most of my time was spent where? On the sideline. Idle. And, you know, an idle mind's a devil's workshop, so you better have it figured out. You better have it structured. So to answer your question about like football versus life, I would say this. Know the moment of truth in your life and like when it comes. For a kicker, the moment of truth is when the plant foot hits the ground. That's the moment of truth. Why? Anybody know? Why is that the moment of truth? I can't change anything. It's either right or wrong. When my weight's on the plant foot, non-negotiable. I'm pulling the trigger and I'm going. So understanding your workbench, and I talk a lot about like you got to learn your workbench, you got to work your workbench, and then you got to own it. But before any of that, you got to define it. So in football, a lot of stuff is spent, a lot of hours are spent defining how do we attack the team? What is our strengths? What's our weaknesses? As a football player, you want to go after the weakness, right? You want to attack their weakness. That's what Belichick was great at. So define, work, and own. You know, in that direction. So am I answering your question? I don't know. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, we're going to go to our next question. Because same thing. Go ahead and step up, state your name, the school you go to, and then go ahead with your question.
My name is JP Parisi, go to Archbishop Hogan. My question was, what one moment in your life where character was tested, and how did you get through that?
So, looking back on your life, many examples out there when your character was tested, and then some of the things you did to get through that these students could do if they're in those same situations.
So I'm going to tell you a story. In 2005, I was coming off 23 years in the NFL. I had played for 23 years. I had just played one season with the Minnesota Vikings. I'd had a good year, about 83% accuracy. Let's face it, if you do something 83% of the time, that's a high level, right? So I felt pretty confident that I was going to get another 24th year in the league. So I moved back with the family to Atlanta, and 2004 turned to 2005. And for 20 months, the phone didn't ring. And people started looking at me. Now, I'm practicing 4 times a week in a public park. I got to know the guys that ran that park because the gates were locked, and when the Little Leaguers needed the field, I had to defer and get off the field. Humbling, very. So for 20 months, I'm working in the public park. I'm kicking and grinding, and the phone's not ringing. Now, at this point, I'm 77 points away, guys and girls, 77 points away from becoming the all-time leading scorer in the history of the game. Why do I mention that? We all have to have our sights on something. Was that selfish? Yes. Yes, it was. But in order to get there, you need to know what you're going for to get there. What is the end station? And for me, it was to become the all-time leading scorer. But the phone's not ringing. I'm not able to dance with anybody because nobody's calling me. In 2006, I didn't play in 05, so in 06, I'm sitting in the basement watching the Falcons play, and the kicker had a bad day. And I turned to my buddy Eric. I said, I'm switching to water now. So we had a couple of, So we switched to water. He goes, why? The phone's not going to ring. I said, the phone's going to ring. 20 minutes later, the phone did ring. And it was Rich McKay from the Falcons, the GM, and he said, can you come in tomorrow? We're making a change at kicker. 20 months, I had not played. Now, I'm 46 years old at this time. So I thought they were just going to see if my hip was attached to my leg, Well, I'm in there with 4 flat bellies half my age, 23 years old, and I'm 46. I could be their dad. And we're going mano a mano. We're going 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55 and back. 15 kicks. There was an orange stripe in the middle of the net. It signaled the middle. I like the middle a lot. You know why I like the middle? It never changes. Anyway, 14 out of 15 hit that orange stripe. And the flat bellies kind of exited out, realizing it wasn't their day. And I felt pretty good, felt pretty confident at this point. So I turned around, and there was a bunch of people watching, the head coach, special teams coach, GM, Arthur Blank was there. I said, questions, anyone? And my special teams coach said, yeah, I have one question. Black or blue ink? I said, oh, I'll take black ink. I signed a 1-year deal, and 2 months later, I became the all-time leading scorer in the history of the game. Now that took courage. That was humbling. And that's my answer to you.
Awesome, thank you for that question. And, you talk about that, and the idea of perseverance comes up. I'm sure there were naysayers that said, "No, 46-year-old, 47-year-old can't come out here and kick." But so for students who see that, or adults that are going through that, what are some ways? Was it just keeping your eyes set on that goal, and that was as simple as it was to keep you going through those moments, or was there family support? Was there somebody else to help you get through all that?
There was definitely family support, but there were a lot of people kind of looking at you. Had a good run, Morten. This is a good run, Get on with your life. I think you need to do a deep dive into your own psyche, and you have to really ask yourself honestly, what's important to you? And if it's worth fighting for. And most of the stuff, as I said in my speech, when the rewards are sublime, when they're up here, the risks are higher. There are no guarantees that you will succeed, But I know this, if you don't play, you're not gonna succeed. So you gotta show up. And you gotta strategize. Like, everybody is their own brand. They're their own building with that great foundation, hopefully foundational character that we all have, that we can build upon. I say a lot of times, trust your hopes, not your fears. I really believe that. I think understanding that it's limitless when you expand your mind across borders and cultures. I keep going back to that. I can't. The curiosity of the human spirit is one of the most important and underrated elements in human nature that we have. We have to constantly ask questions. You're at an age right now, guys, where you should be asking questions. And the adults in here should be providing answers. And if they can't, they should honestly tell you, I don't know the answer, but I will find out. Or you find out together through collaboration. That's what teaching is all about. That's what learning is all about. You don't have a choice to sit in a chair in a school, but you have a choice to excel. You do have a choice, because you're in there. Now, there's no other place you could possibly be than right here, right now. So why not make that quality great? Spend time on the process, forget about the result. Spend time on the process, immerse yourself with curiosity, authenticity, and energy, and sky's the limit.
Whew. All right. All right, we're going to go to another question from our students in the back. So go, state your school, your name, and then go ahead with your question.
All right, my name is Preston Kress, and I'm from Coventry Middle School. And my question is, besides being selected for the Hall of Fame, what do you consider your greatest accomplishment and why?
All right, besides being selected to the Hall of Fame, getting the jacket, the bust, the ring, what's your biggest accomplishment?
Well, being a father to my two sons, I would say, and a husband to my wife, Jennifer, 27 years, that's a big one, I would say. That's a, non-negotiable one, really. There are a number of experiences in life where you could easily become a narcissist and say, oh, this is, look at me. But really, when you put your head on the pillow at night, I think you have to really understand that what gives you peace of mind is, again, the strength of your character, the bonds you have with your family. I mean, family is the most important thing. And then the friendship circle that you have developed over the years, meaningful relationships, powerful, productive relationships based on powerful, productive communication. I'm most proud of being able to live an authentic life with integrity and with purpose, and to pass my knowledge on. I mean, it's such an honor to be here today, because I get to speak to the next. You're the next. Whether you want to be or not, you are the next. And great responsibility. Couldn't imagine to be your age in this time, with the pressures of social media, the anxiety, the expectations of you. But I would challenge you to just be really mindful and smart about the way you conduct your lives, and not be flippant about the gift that you've been given, the potential that you all have. The unrealized potential, and some potential that's being realized, that's part of growing up. You got to guard that. You got to guard it like it's the most precious gift you have. Please, we have to. If you guys are the ones that are going to be, you're going to take over a country for better or worse, and whether you're going to be in a leadership role or not, you need to understand, and we all need to understand together, that we have to help you be the best. But you also have to come with some intention and with some passion, some energy, and focus. Deal? Come on, deal. All right.
Awesome. You go through all that. I mean, obviously the awards, the accolades stack up, especially with a 25-year NFL career.
Yeah.
All-time leading scorer at one point, which is one of the highest honors, in league history. You get all these awards, all these accolades. How important is it to remain humble? Because there's part of you that probably feels good when these awards, these All-Pros, these Pro Bowls roll in. But how do you remain humble throughout all of that, and keeping your focus on being a great friend, being a great teammate, being a great family member?
I think my two sons took care of that pretty quickly. When they were in high school, actually in junior high, I was like, "Hey guys, you're gonna be kickers, right? I'll grind with you. Let's go kick." They both looked at me and said, "Dad, we want to play a real position." I was like, "Well, what?" Yeah, so one became a linebacker, another guy didn't even play football. He ended up playing soccer and golf and doing other things. But that crushed me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that was ruthless from the mouth of babes. But humility is something it's important. But I think it's important to believe in yourself. You don't have to be cocky. You don't have to be arrogant. You don't have to be. You just got to be yourself. Be authentic. Humility comes automatically because life will dole out plenty of defeats to all of us. It's how we handle them. It's how we fail. It's how we fail that defines us. It's not how we succeed. It's how we fail, and how we recover from failure. I strongly believe that. I think if you talk to anybody that has had any amount of success, they would agree with it. Most people that have great success have failed miserably at some point, but they've been able to pivot, refocus with renewed energy and focus and go.
All right, we're going to go to the back for another question. So go ahead and state the school you go to, your name, and then go ahead with your question.
My name is James Paul. I'm from Madison High School. My question is, if you could have played any other Hall of Famer, who would you choose?
Any other Hall of Famer you could pick to be on your team, who you picking?
Wow, that's a
Is
tough
we
one,
looking
man.
special teams? Are we looking at quarterback?
No, I'm probably going to go on the line because the line of scrimmage is where everything's won and lost. I would probably go with a guy like Will Shields or Dawson. Damani Dawson. Or a D lineman like, there's so many. Reggie White when he was around. Good grief. I would go with the lineman because that's where the dirt and the blood and the snot all coagulates into one big gumbo, of which I was never a part of, by the way. Thank God.
I'm right there with you. I don't want to be in there.
I don't want to be in there. I mean, who wants to be in that stew? And there's a lot of business going on in there. I mean, you can't see a lot of the hands and stuff, and I don't know, the pile. You guys are, the piling on and all that, I don't know, man. I don't want to be part of that. I want my uni clean. I'm happy to come in like at the end and be the guy that wins the game, but then get off of me. Don't tackle me. I remember in the NFC Championship game, we had a 38-yarder from the left hash in overtime to win the game, to go to the Super Bowl, 1999, playing the Vikings up in the Metrodome. They were 15-1, we were 14-2. There was no way we were going to win that game. I was with the Atlanta Falcons, and we're behind the most of the game, and we somehow got into overtime. And the night before, I had done some mental rehearsals. I had written 4 scenarios that I had visualized. It's called cognitive intervention. That's a whole nother hour. But anyway, the last situation I wrote down, 38 left hash in overtime to win the game. So when it came in overtime, I was like, wow, this has already happened. I've already made this kick. And I was looking down the line, and all my guys were on their knees holding hands and praying. I said, they don't know yet. We're going to win the game. So I walked out there, and I knew that Dennis Green was going to call timeout. He did. And then I kicked the ball, and I didn't didn't even see the ball go through. I started running, and my original point was I got chased by about the whole team and ended up on the bottom of a pile of really big guys, and it hurts. Hurts real bad, man.
Along those same lines, talking about fellow Hall of Famers, where there's a moment in your career that you were ever like taken aback when you walked out into the field to warm up and somebody from the other team was, warming up, catching balls, throwing passes, where there's a person that when you walked out to that stadium and you went, oh my gosh, that's...
I played with Randy Moss, and Randy Moss, we were up practicing one day before the Green Bay playoff game, and Randy's like, hey, Morten, I'm going to run a 15-yard post, but I'm going to do it blindfolded. You throw the ball. I can feel the vibrations of the ball, catch the ball. I go, what? And I'm not a great passer, but I threw an okay spiral, It led him a little bit. I go, he can't see this ball. Caught the ball. It's like, what? So I would say Randy Moss was, he was the greatest mooner in the world.
All right, got another question in the back. Go ahead and have a student step up to the microphone. As always, like we've said, state your name.
Sweet letter jacket, dude.
School
What's
you go
up?
to. And
Let me see the back of that. Can I see the back? What's it say? All right.
All right. Very nice.
My name is Antonio Peger. I attend Kansas City High School, and my question for you today is, how did you get your nickname?
The Great Dane?
The Great Dane. How did we get the nickname?
I'm from Denmark, and the Great Dane lifts his leg again, so. Wait, left hand. I think it just came through the years with the Saints. We're hitting long balls. Back then, a 50-yarder was a big deal. Now a 50-yarder is like the old 40-yarder, and the 60-yarder is like the old 50. Guys are so good today. But the Great Dane came from, my heritage of being from Denmark and I was 6'2", and when my playing weight was like 230, 35, a little heavier now, but trying to get down,
You look at that, you talk about, sometimes the teams have nicknames, and it's just the idea of camaraderie comes together. So being in that locker room where they're calling you by your nickname, or they're making fun of you for something if you missed a kick or you fell or whatever it might be, that idea of camaraderie in that locker room, can you tell everybody here, what that's like and, how important that is to an overall team success?
Yeah, keeping it light in the locker room, keeping it fun. The practical jokes, as long as they're not mean-spirited, those things were always important. And having real conversations. I remember Michael Vick, his locker was next to mine, and at the time Michael was undisciplined, not a very disciplined kid, and he'd have his hoodie up, sleep in the locker, and this is our starting quarterback, and I wasn't liking it at all. I didn't think that was great behavior. So I had a conversation with him, and I don't know if it changed it, but again, when you're in the locker room, things are said in there and done in there that stay in there for a reason. That's just esprit de corps. That's just part of the deal. And that's not necessarily, it is by design, because a lot of, sometimes you got to circle the wagons. Mm-hmm. And I think the culture in the locker room is directly related to how things are going on the field, no question. And I would say it takes a handful of guys across positions in leadership roles to kind of get on the same page and get everybody flowing in the same direction. And that's great responsibility. I was a captain for many, many years, and you can say, well, a kicker, a captain. Well, you look at the leading scorers in the history of any game, any level, it's the kicker. Now, we don't do it alone, but without those points, there's not a lot of wins. So, yeah, kickers can be leaders, and I was one of them, and I was asked to be, and sometimes that requires uncomfortable conversations with people if the standards are not being met. In other words, in the locker room, I might go up to a guy and go, hey, tell me how I can help you get to your highest level. You tell me what you need from me to get you to the highest level. I'll tell you what I need from you to get me and us to the highest level. Unfiltered, straight up, and I think that was real helpful. And if you get a handful of guys in leadership roles who people respect to do that, now you got something. Because it's not necessarily everybody's following and herd mentality, but you're going to resonate with one or two players, and then it's going to spread like wildfire. So the consistency of the message is important in the locker room, I think. Being able to always like be unwavering. Like that one's non-negotiable. There are certain rules, like be on time. How many times have you heard your coach say, be on time? The number one rule, be on time. You know, be alert, take notes, those type of things. In the locker room, you know, be on time, be accountable. Well, that's a big one. I mean, whether you want to or not, be accountable. Can I count on you? In a team sport, if you can't count on somebody, it's anarchy. You're screwed. In any team, in any corporate setting, if you can't count on somebody, two things will happen. One or two things will happen. The corporation will find somebody else who can, or if you're lucky, they'll invest time and money in you to develop you to become that. But most of the time, they're going to find somebody, you know, and it's the same in team sports. If you're not doing it, they'll find somebody else to do it. It's just cut and dry, and that's just the reality of it.
All right, we're going to go to another question from the back. So go ahead and have a student step up. Just like everybody else, state your name, the school you go to, and then go ahead with your question.
My name is Jacob Moss from New Falls High School.
What's up, Jake?
Throughout your career, what team did you enjoy beating the most?
Beating the most? All of them.
Did you beat all 32?
When I played for New Orleans, I loved beating the Falcons. When I played for the Falcons, I loved beating the Saints. So, but that was more of a personal thing. You know, that was a whole weird thing. In 1995, I was let go by the Saints. They called me a declining player. When you get cut in the NFL, they got to give you a sheet, and there's a couple items. They got to check a box. The box they checked on me was declining player, competition better. And then there was a side note, can't hit the long ball anymore. That was in 95, like in August, I was let go. I signed with the rivals Falcons the same year, and then the next 10 times we beat the Saints, 7 on field goals. In that year, the first one, 4 field goals, 1 in overtime to beat them in the Superdome, and then in Atlanta in December, 3 over 50, NFL record, 55, 55, and 51 to beat them. And I remember having that fax that I had kept when they fired me, and I wrote 55 left hash, 55 right hash, 51 middle, declining player, question mark, and that was back when you were faxing. I faxed it to the Saints with
awesome.
The final score. Revenge is served quietly and cold.
That's awesome. I've never heard that story before. That's very, very cool. You know, you played for a lot of teams, got to play with a lot of people, a lot of different, you know, personalities. You know, you mentioned some of the players right there that you played with before. What was it about, you know, because a lot of people you look, a lot of the, you know, longevity guys who are in the league, you know, pretty much are with one team a majority of their career. Then they, you know, bounce around there at the end. But for you, was it a goal that you wanted to stay with one franchise? Were you like, hey, whoever, you know, I'll go wherever. Just sign me.
I was hoping to stay with the Saints, and I was with them for 13 years. And then I was with the Falcons for 8. So really, I was with 2 teams for 21 years. And the average life, you know, career is what, 3-4 years?
Yep.
In the NFL?
About 3.5, yeah.
So 21 years with 2 teams is not too shabby. It was at the end of my career, you know, Giants, Chiefs, and Vikings, back to the Falcons, where I just bounced around a little bit. That was the 1-year contracts, played for the minimum. Minimum was around $700,000-800,000 plus benefits. So you had $1 million, not too shabby for 4 months of work, right? Putting foot to ball. I think I'm going to do that, and I'm willing to bounce around. You know, I had a good run. Let's see if we can do something special. Let's see if we can leave a nice legacy. And so my intention was just to play. Mm-hmm. You know, have foot, will travel kind of thing. I think that's a good kind of takeaway for you guys too. Have talent, have skill set, will travel. You don't necessarily locked into one situation or another. You can travel, and it's a beautiful thing. Opens up the possibilities.
All right, got another question in the back, so go ahead and state your name, the school you go to, and then go ahead with your question.
I'm Ava. I go to Cleveland Heights High Officers Program, and my question is, given everything in your life like that you've done, do you feel like accomplished, like established?
That's a great question. Do you feel some sort of accomplishment after all these awards and accolades?
I mean, do I have regrets? I probably have a few regrets. When I was younger, I had that youthful oblivion where you don't know that you don't know. You know,
all the adults are going,
that stage of ignorance. So I probably made some questionable decisions in my early 20s. But the punishment was swift, you know what I mean? So I kind of felt like, okay, I'm not, it's okay to make mistakes. Let's just not make the same ones over and over again, But I don't really have regrets. I don't feel as a human being that I hope I'm evolving, right? I'm curious. I'm a curious person. I like to ask questions. I like to learn. I'm reading a book right now about the Maoris in New Zealand. I just spent 3 weeks in New Zealand, by the way. Highly recommend going to New Zealand. Beautiful country, beautiful people, great history. So I'm reading a book about the Maoris. I didn't know they were cannibals. They ate human flesh. And they said the eyeballs were the best. I don't know. But anyway, it's an intense read, but I got sidetracked there on that one. I would say, as far as regrets, not many. I just try to live and learn every day and evolve. And I enjoy the process of life, I like the challenges. When somebody says that can't be done, I think it can be done, I don't know. It's curiosity, a healthy dose of curiosity is always good to have in the luggage.
Absolutely. All right, got some more questions from our students. Oh, never mind, she got a follow-up.
A follow-up
Go
question,
ahead, go ahead.
wow.
So you feel like you've done like everything you wanted to do in life?
No, I haven't.
Things that you want to do in life?
No, I don't feel that at all. But it's not like, well, I'm checking a box and saying, oh, parachuting, let's go parachuting, or let's climb Mount Everest or something like that. It's not that. It's just, I don't know what tomorrow will bring. I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. None of us are. I live here. I live now, right here, right now. There's no other place, as I said earlier, we can possibly be but right here, right now. So I try to live as intently as I can right now with you guys. I'm trying to give you 100% of me so that you can give 100% of you. That's really no hidden agenda here. Just honored to be here with you guys and if you have 3 takeaways from this thing, I'm happy. I think we have that. I think that's done. I think we're there. Let's see, what are the takeaways? Number 1, I would say, fear is failing, right? Well, let's start over. The character thing, understand the 5 subtraits. Rich, R-I-C-C-H, remember that. See it in the vertical column. See it, believe it. Take it, own it. Respect, integrity, commitment, courage, honesty. Those are all right on top of the foundational character. That's it. We start there. Authentic living with purpose. Let's go with energy. Living in the present. Fear is failing forward. Courage to do things that are uncomfortable. Embracing the suck. Embracing the uncomfortable, distasteful. And celebrating each other and lifting each other up. Somebody next to you may have a worse day than you're having. They may be going through something where they need a friend. And across cultures and races and religions, let's start focusing on the humans inside of the human qualities. Let's work together on that. with compassion. My wife is one of the most kindest people in the world, and she has taught me to be kind. If you don't do anything else today, be kind to each other and to yourself.
Awesome. All right. I think we got time for maybe one more question from our students before we end today. So we'll take our last question from our students here, and then we'll go ahead and we'll start wrapping up. But so go ahead and state your name, the school you go to, and then go ahead with your question.
My name is Mr. Wood. I got to come to middle school. And kicking field goals are a lot of pressure. How did you deal with that?
How to deal with all the pressure?
So I don't like the word pressure. We're going to get rid of that word. Pressure is gone. No more pressure. Pressure happens, perceived pressure happens when your skill set does not match the task. I'm going to say that again. Perceived pressure happens, stress happens when your skill set doesn't match the task. So I'm going to go back to the workbench and the moment of truth and defining your workbench and working your workbench, owning your workbench. You know, your skill set, what you're good at, work on what you're not good at. The pressure, I don't like the word. I like the notion of being in an uncomfortable situation with a great amount of skill and confidence. Confidence comes from knowing. There's an order with which we learn, the 4 stages of learning. Unconscious incompetence. I said it earlier, that's when you don't know that you don't know. Conscious incompetence is when you know that you don't know. So a little bit of learning. Conscious competence, you're starting to get it. You're starting to understand it, but you can't do it in your sleep. You can't do it like Michael Jordan did it with closed eyes at the free throw line. Unconscious competence. That's where we want to go as humans, as athletes. Unconscious competence. I can wake you up at 4 a.m. and say, hey, give me a 40-yarder from the left hash, and you'll go out and deliver it in front of 80,000 people. Unconscious competence. But that is an acquired taste, and that's not for everybody. But it's there, and it's possible.
Awesome, great question. I think with the points you made there, I think there is something you can take away. 4 or 5 different topics. Normally my last question I ask is, what's one thing you want students to take away? But I think we just listed about 5 or 6 right there. So my last question before we wrap up today, and it's just a simple yes/no question. The Hall of Fame just enshrined special teams ace Devin Hester. Does Morten Andersen kick off to Devin Hester?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. I'm kicking it out of the end zone, though.
All right.
I don't want him returning.
With that, I'd like to wrap up this installment of the Heart of a Hall of Famer series.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.